I had my sunglasses on.
Oh, you took a dump?
My glasses clipped on here. And when I was unloading everything at the dump, my glasses fell off. And by the time we went back, when I noticed it, we got back, they'd already scooped up our pile and it was gone. So now I have to wear my sunglasses so that I can actually see.
Gotcha.
They have a reading component to them as well.
Okay, guys. So we're live on Facebook and everybody's muted and ready to cook. Okay, so today, this is near and dear. You know, I've been really focused in on these early sessions. I've been focused in on things that are like in my wheelhouse. I haven't really dabbled in things that I've got some experience with. The stuff that we've been working on so far is stuff that is on my DNA. Latkes is one of those things. It started when I was a kid. We had latkes all the time. There's an article that actually, I'll send a link to everybody, called The Latke King from Hanukkah Heights, that was written by the Jewish Food Society about me. And it talks about my evolution of having different varieties of latke in different family members and bouncing from house to house around Hanukkah, to ultimately coming up with my own recipe. And I feel like I grokked this recipe to a place where it's perfect for me. It really nails what I think a latke should be. That said, everybody has their different perspectives on latkes, and the things that I like about, and I'm talking about a classic potato latke. We're going to do 3 types, and I'll talk about those in a second. But the classic potato latke, to me, I like them to be relatively small and bite-sized. I don't want to have to, you know, cut it up and fork it. I like it to be to have a good lattice of potato and give me a crisp to sort of steamy pop in the middle ratio. So I do like to have that crispy exterior, but I want to have a little pop in the middle. I don't want it to be all the way dry all the way through. And ultimately, you know, a good latke has a bit of fat flavor to it, a real potato flavor, and some good salt. And then it's a vehicle for the toppings. And really the only toppings should be sour cream and applesauce. There are variations. I know some people who put caviar, that's fine, if you can afford it. And sour cream and applesauce, to me, together, I think that's the perfect combination. So I'm going to do 3 kinds here. And the reason I'm doing that, I do a vodka latke party every year, and I usually do like 10 kinds of latkes, or at least fried foods. I'll do a crab cake, or I'll do risotto balls, arancini or supli. I'll do donuts, which are soufflognon. Those are traditional. But on the latkes, I actually do this cheese latke because it is the original latke from Hanukkah. That potato latkes are not the original latke. So these cheese latkes, I think, are amazing. They're really easy to make. So we're going to bang those out really quickly. I'm not sure if everybody's doing all of the varieties, which you don't have to. It's going to be a lot of work to get through all 3 of them, but none of them are incredibly complicated unto themselves. But my thought is, we'll start with the cheese latke. We'll do the zucchini fritters while prepping a little bit for the potato latkes, and then we'll finish with the potato latkes. So the cheese latkes, being the original latke, I think it's always good to have that in there. And quite honestly, they're ridiculously good. So the entire preparation for the cheese latkes I can do in the food processor. We'll bang those out. Is anybody not using a food processor in the crew? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay.
So, Ed.
Yes.
Quick question. So, do I need to have the shredding attachment for the food processor?
Good question. I was just going to speak to that. So, I do recommend that if we want to get through this, the shredding attachment will speed things up. I also think, I used to have an opinion that I prefer, and I talk about it in the Jewish Food Society. I talked about how I prefer to do it by hand, and you got to get like a little bit of blood on your knuckles to really make latkes great. That said, if you look at the depth of the the grater, the little holes that you grate in on here versus here. On this, it's actually raised a little bit, and you get a slightly thicker grate out of the attachment for your food processor. To that, I prefer the slightly thicker grate, and lately I've been doing it not just out of convenience, but out of the preference over that. So if everybody has that grate, if not, then maybe you can use your children as slave labor to get them to grate on a box grater. But I'm going to be doing it with the attachment, but I'm happy to demonstrate manual.
And the other question I had, Adam, is can you use a spiralizer?
I would not recommend a spiralizer.
Okay.
But you're not Jewish, so you can do whatever you want. And for the cheese latkes, so we're going to put this aside for a minute, because for the cheese latkes, we're using the food processor as it is normal, with a standard bit. So the cheese latkes, basically, you just take everything, you throw it in the food processor, you blend it into a lovely batter. It's like a pancake batter, and then we're going to put it in a bowl and put it aside. And then we will when we start frying all the other latkes. So I'll walk you through the ingredients. It's 1.5 cups of ricotta cheese. A word about ricotta cheese: it does matter to get good quality. I use Bellwether Farms makes a really good basket ricotta. It's nice and creamy. So I highly recommend it. The cheaper mass processed ricottas texturally don't have the same cream to it. So I prefer a higher quality ricotta. The other thing, just real quick, I have a second camera. Anytime that I use it over the stove, I'm gonna hit gallery view on my screen. You can hit gallery view too, or you can just click on the other Adam Zolot, and then that brings you to here. So if you need to see what's going on the stove, then you can look at the other camera. Amy's
Question,
here.
Adam. Can we use mascarpone instead of ricotta?
I would say that if you don't have access to ricotta, then mascarpone would be fine. It's a different texture, it's a different vibe, but in lieu of something better, sure, why not? Okay, so we're gonna start the cheese latkes with 1.5 cups of ricotta. And like I said, everything's just going into the food processor. We're gonna blend it up, and then we're gonna get this one over and done with. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. I have to give a shout out to my friend Nicole. This is homemade vanilla extract. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but Nicole Johnson made this for me. And I didn't realize it, but homemade vanilla extract is basically vanilla pods, vanilla beans with vodka. So I don't know what she does if the vodka is even distilled at all, but it's pretty cool. So I'm putting a teaspoon of vanilla extract in there.
Can you smell the vodka? Not
really. It smells like vanilla extract, but maybe vanilla extract always smelled like vodka. A half a teaspoon of kosher salt and a half a teaspoon of baking powder. And let me know, you guys, pace, questions. Anytime you have a question, I am here to answer. And I know last time I was watching the video back and I saw that chat had been asking some questions and he wasn't pressing me on it. So some of them got missed. And I want to make sure that I answer everybody's questions. And is that Wostui Way Weibel right there? One of my favorite people in the whole world. Hi, sweetheart.
Hi, Ryan. Adam, is it how much vanilla? Sorry.
How much vanilla? A teaspoon.
Thank you.
Ish. And remember, all the stuff for me is ish. This is actually somebody else's recipe. So, you know, I usually tend to eyeball it. It's good. 3 tablespoons of sugar and all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup, and then 3 eggs. Now, if your eggs tend to be small, you might go with 4. It's not going to kill it. Essentially, I would say that this is the closest thing I've ever seen to a Jewish pancake. let's see. Yeah, I feel like my eggs are a little small. No, I'm good.
I'm
And
sorry,
then cream
how many
cheese.
eggs?
Three.
Okay.
And then cream cheese. So this is 8 ounces of cream cheese, and we need 6. So three. Sorry. So if it's 8 ounces, my gazintas are not that good. So 8 ounces, that would make 2. So 3 ounces is going to be right about there. What do you guys think? If that's 8. Right about there. And it's not going to kill it if I go a little, because that's 4. Okay, right here. Rainy day here in San Francisco makes sheltering in place a lot easier. Sending best wishes to Boris Johnson. Pretty crazy that somebody that high up can get hit by this stuff. Don't know why it couldn't have been our president. I didn't just say that, did I? Did I say that out loud? All right, and then I'm gonna get this on the food processor, and we'll be done with the cheese latkes. And that was easy, right? I'm taking it easy on you guys so far.
Cheese Latkes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna scrape the sides down a little bit. Make sure that it's completely incorporated. Because you do want a nice smooth batter. I make these for a group. I usually, make 5 times this recipe.
Mom, are you making normal Latkes too, though?
And anybody who's on this call is officially invited to the next vodka latke party. If you haven't been in before, to who? And I'm going to put this batter in a bowl, wash out the food processor, and we'll move on to the harder stuff. Now, the next one that we're going to do is, has anybody done their food processor yet? Has anybody caught up with me? I hear some going now. God, it smells good. It makes me feel like you could add a little bit of lemon to this and would add another dynamic. I know Eric likes to add things to my recipes, so that would be fully acceptable. And as always,
Adam, did you say there was supposed to be flour in here?
yes, there's 3/4 cup of flour. Now, here's the thing. If you're making these for Passover, which is coming up in a couple days, anything that calls for flour, if you did want to do it for Passover, you can use matzah meal, cake meal. Cake meal is the finer grind of matzah meal and would allow you to use it for Passover. So I don't necessarily keep kosher for Passover, but if you do, you're a good Jew. My email or my message didn't say calling all good Jews. I just said calling all Jews. And then we'll put this aside. If you're going to use it in a couple of days and you want to refrigerate it, it would probably refrigerate for, I would say, 3 or 4 days nicely without hurting it at all. So once you get that done, go ahead and wash out your food processor because we're coming back to it shortly. And we're still going to use the chopping attachment because I think that works best for the onions. So here is my batter. I don't want to spill it, but you can see it is fairly thick, kind of like a cake. I'm going to go under here. So you can see it there on the other camera. Poppy Maybell. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside for later. Oh, you know, I wanted to talk about some of the tools in my kitchen while you guys are catching up. I have a couple things that I don't know that all of you have. Maybe you do, but if you don't, you should. I don't sell these. I don't get anything from it. I showed you the last time, the fish spatula. This is one of the most useful tools in my kitchen, and I highly recommend it. A good set of tongs. I like the tongs that don't have any sort of grippy plastic or anything like that. And you literally just hit it on your chest or on the counter when you want to use them. These are my favorite tongs. Sheet pans, commercial sheet pans, which, by the way, I just scrubbed this one today. Look how clean it got. And wire racks, cooling racks are really important to go along with the sheet pan. So we're going to use the sheet pan at some point today. I use it all the time. These are some of my favorite tools, and if you don't have them, you should. One other thing is that in the recipe, as we move on, I call for matzo meal in my latke recipe. I like the flavor of the matzah. I like the texture of the matzah. If you don't have matzo meal, there's two things you can do. You can make your own. Let me go back to speaker view. You can make your own. And to do that, you take matzah, you put it in the food processor until it comes out to a powdery consistency. So if you don't have matzo meal, this is the consistency of matzo meal, and I highly recommend it. Hand making of that is, and using it in your potato latkes. You could also use flour. You could also use this cake meal. The cake meal is going to come out a little more gummy though, because it's more like flour. So the texture of matzo meal, they didn't have any at the store today. So, and I couldn't get any delivered. So I actually made this. I just put some matzah in the food processor. Okay. So everybody done? Hands up if you're done with your cheese latkes. Wait, keep your hands up because I don't have the gallery view. Hands up. You're done? If you're not done, I will wait. Looks like Offenhart's is still working. Amy's still working. Oh, you can't get the baking powder open. We're going to see John Offenhart's wrestling with baking powder. I love it. Are you guys?
More accurately, I couldn't find the baking powder.
Oh, okay. Rivals, you're not making the cheese latkes. You're just waiting for the potato. Is that what's happening? And looking cute, like the greatest family ever.
And the zucchini as well.
We love
Oh, you
the
are making the zucchini.
Yeah, my
Okay.
favorite.
And Rosie, how are you today, my love? How you doing, Rose?
Good.
Good. Very good.
I'm on spring break right now.
Are you? So what are you doing for spring break?
Not much. Stay at home a lot.
Yeah. What can we do?
Staying at home.
I get that. Most definitely. Okay. So I'm going to start. I think we can move on to the zucchini. John, you ready to move on to the zucchini? Okay. Okay. So the zucchini, story behind these. I went to Greece in 2000 and when was that? 2010? Judah was 2009. Judah was 4 years old. Julie and I were 40. So it was our 40th birthday. Anyway, I fell in love with, I don't even know how to say them, Kolokithokeftedes or something like that. And they are zucchini fritters. And when I do the vodka latke party, I like to do different fried things from around the world. So obviously this fried thing was of great interest to me. It's very similar to a traditional latke, but what I do is I actually take the zucchini after it's shredded and I put it in the food processor to process it even more. You don't have to do that, but I like it broken down. I like it more of a fritter, less of a latke. What we're going to do is we're going to get onions for both the zucchini and the potato latke. So we're going to double task right now because I want to do for both of them the onions in the food processor. You could chop it by hand if you don't have a food processor. By all means, that's fine. But we're looking for a a chop that goes down beyond a fine dice. You want a pretty fine dice on this. So I'm going to process it and pulse it on the food processor, and then we'll use the onions for both of these latkes. So each one of them calls for a small onion. So I'm going to grab my 2 smallest onions. Whoever's got their food processor on can mute, or I'll mute you. I think that was John. Gotcha. Okay, so we're gonna just we're gonna peel these guys. We're gonna do a quarter of them, or we're gonna quarter them, and then we're gonna throw them into the food processor. And the reason I'm doing the onions first is because as we do our potatoes, what we're going to find is that, as happened with the tortilla española, for those that cooked that with me, the onions arrest the browning of the potatoes. And to me, that's really important. You want to try to set your timing up and have these guys in there so that you are avoiding getting the potatoes browned. So having the onions ready to go, once you peel and shred your potatoes, you toss them in the onion, and then it keeps your potatoes nice and white. So we're going to peel 2 of our onions, and then we're going to just toss them in, chop them up rough, toss them in the food processor, and then just get them to a, in a regular, relatively fine shred. So you see how I just get them started here.
Adam, how many onions if we're just doing the potato latkes?
Just 1.
That. Okay.
Solo uno for you in Costa Rica.
Any objection to using shallots?
No objection if you don't have onions, but I prefer onions.
Okay.
But
Is there a potential to
I
liquefy
got
the
red
onions?
onions and I got shallots.
yeah, I would use onions.
Is
All
there
right.
potential to liquefy the onions if you do it too much?
Yeah, you don't want to get them too far.
Right.
So we're going to pulse them. I'm not going to run the food processor until it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Adam the Entertainer, I'm here to amuse you. So these are pretty close right here. Let me show you on the other camera.
Not too much.
So if you guys can see on the other camera what I'm working here. So it's a fine chop. It would take you a bit of work to do that with your hand, but not beyond doing. So get them chopped up. Here are your 2 mixing bowls. You're going to divide them in half between your 2 mixing bowls. One will be for your potato latkes, the other for your zucchini fritters. If we wanted to be fancy, we could actually weigh them. I love my scale. That's the other thing that I use a lot in my kitchen is my digital scale. And I've started getting a little more particular about weighing out the ingredients for my sour starter rather than just eyeballing it. And today I had really good results on my feeding. If you've been tracking it, it tripled volume today. It started about here this morning. So she's up to here. So it was a really good feeding today. I'm feeling like my loaves are gonna get better. Okay, so these are halved. I hear other people joining late. I don't know if they're cooking with us. Joining late.
Meow, meow. Let's sneak a
Oh,
little.
hey, Hey, Laura, are you cooking with us?
No, man, I can't eat too much fried food. I just wanted to see you all and support this. I'm going to try the matzo ball soup though.
Cool.
And I just want to watch you.
So we're it's actually live streaming on Facebook, and we have non-chefs on Facebook because this is the channel for everybody that's cooking. Can you get access to Facebook and stream it there?
Yeah, you got it. I'll jump off.
I love you.
Mwah.
We'll see you on Thursday for matzo ball.
All right.
And then
Okay.
VOSF, is that Victoria watching us?
She probably is.
Because if we can get her to jump onto Facebook too, that would be great. So that we're just, I don't want to have black windows. The Alice Brady thing. Okay, so we got our onions. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to now put the chopper attachment on. We're going to do our zucchini and one potato. Did I put one potato in the recipe? I should have. Yeah. My zucchinis are so small that I might do two. I didn't realize, I mean, they gave me really small zucchini at the delivery. So I might do two of them. This is one of those eyeball things. So what you want to do is you want to cut off the top and the end of your zucchini. And we're going to do, one small to medium zucchini or two very small ones. And one potato. So you're going to do the potato last because once you peel it, then it goes to brown and we want to get it in the onion as quickly as possible. So we're going to take the shredder attachment, put that sucker on, and then pop this sucker out and turn her on. Down we go. Three. See how easy that was? And I know I'm going to get grief for that because I'm the one who specifically said in my recipe that you got to get bloody knuckles. The reason I put potato in here is to bulk it up a little bit. I find that zucchini can be a little watery. So the one potato sort of just adds a little substance to it. So what you're going to do is peel your potato, and then you're going to have to slice it to get it into the food processor. Thanks, Lorber. I like the apron too. Headley and Bennett. Someday maybe they'll be a sponsor of the whole deal. They're great people. I worked with them a lot when we were at Feastly. They were just down the street from us in LA. All right, so I'm dropping the potato in. And then once I get all of these together, I'm going to mix this up with the onion so that nothing browns. And then I'm going to show you a trick that you're going to, and these little pieces, you can either try to throw them back in, the ones that get caught in the top of the disc, or if they just don't want to go, then you compost them. So I'm going to show you this trick that is going to carry over into the potato latkes. And this is the secret to making good latkes. So you're going to want to pay attention. So get all of that into your bowl with the onions, and then you're going to toss this all with the onions, and then I'm going to wait for you. And you will see my trick. Maybe, well, no, you're going to have to do it too. I was going to say we can start chopping the feta, but okay. So I'm going to get a little wooden spoon to mix this with. And here's the trick. The secret to a bad latke is moisture, okay? Potatoes do not crisp, nor do zucchini or many other things in this world when there's too much moisture present. So the trick to making things like this crispier is to remove the moisture from it. Now, zucchini, there's a simple trick. Once you get it in the bowl, Zucchini, you could put zucchini in a colander and you could salt it, a robust amount of salt, which I'm doing right now. And you can let it sit in the colander and the salt reacts with the zucchini and it leaches the moisture out. So that's a trick for just the zucchini, but because we have a potato in here, we're going to take it a step further. I'm salting them anyway because it's going to help with that. But the trick when you have the potato in there is that you want to take a clean dishcloth. Everybody get a clean dishcloth. Amy, you're looking at me like you don't have a clean dishcloth? I know you live with Tommy, so.
I know, so I might not. Well, so wait, one potato in the zucchini latkes.
Yes.
One potato.
Uh-huh.
Okay, got it.
Is
That's
everybody, say again?
That's why I was confused.
Okay. Is everybody caught up with me? Hands up if you're have zucchini and potatoes in a bowl and are ready to move on to the next step. And if you're not, I'll wait. It's like Sarah's getting close. I see you pulling things out.
I'm skipping the zucchini.
Oh, you're not doing the zucchini. Okay. And Jody?
I'm skipping it.
You're skipping it too. Okay.
Cheese and potato.
Okay. So Jason, how about you? You're good. Okay. So for those of us that are doing it, what you're going to do is you're going to take maybe half of your zucchini to start, and you're going to feel it's wet. Your hands will be wet. And you know what? Maybe I wonder if I have a glass bowl that you can see. I don't have a glass bowl that you can see, but I have a bowl. I'm going to squeeze the moisture out into a bowl so you can see how much comes out of this. So I'm going to roll it up like a burrito. Okay. And then I'm going to take the ends and I'm going to twist it in opposite directions. Okay. Over this bowl. You want to do it over something, over the sink or over a bowl. And as I do that, watch what happens. The liquid, whoops, hold on. I'm on split view still. I got to get a camera operator. The liquid starts to make its way out and you get a good workout on this. Oven hearts, stop it. I know where your mind is.
I'm just going to say, are you going to reserve that for some exotic cocktail later?
Oh, I thought you were going to say that's what she said.
Nope.
So you see how much liquid I'm getting out of this? All of this would ruin the crispiness of your latke. And herein lies the secret of a good latke. And we're going to do it on the potato ones. All right, so I'm going to transfer this to the cutting board so I can put the dry stuff back in here, and then we'll do it with the other half. If you're strong, you might be able to do it with the entire batch. So those of us who are doing this are getting some practice for what we're going to do with the potato latke, because that's it. That is the primary secret. So then you take it and open it at the bottom, and you can shake out your dried bits and then repeat. I go through a lot of kitchen towels in Hanukkah season, but man, oh man, does it change the game. Okay, so let's do the other half. And then the rest is pretty simple after that. What we're doing is we're trying to, much like the meatballs, this is like a veggie meatball, we're going to create a batter that we want to bind. So we're going to use the usual suspects in creating a binding batter. Nika, I don't think I have a kitchen towel preference. Ones that are, I mean, these are just commercial ones, Utopia towels. No, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to do the second one here.
Claire, plug it in somewhere else.
I'm getting this cord.
Look at all that liquid. So I would say that that's God, that's got to be a half a cup of liquid. Let's get a measuring cup. Why not? We have the technology.
Easily, we got a half a cup. I bet you could use that for a smoothie.
Amy Hoffman used to drink that kind of thing when she was pregnant with Poppy. Poppy, this is what your mother used to drink. Potassium water.
Potato and zucchini extract.
I think she's still drinking it.
Is it like a zucchini or something?
Yes.
I wouldn't doubt if Tommy drank it. Give it to Tommy. He'll eat anything. You'll notice also, because we did the onions with this, the onions have a certain amount of moisture in them too. And look at this. Everything's still white. Nothing is brown. It's just beautiful how everything is maintained a nice color when you add onion and squeeze out the liquid. So let's see how much liquid we got. I'm calling it about a half a cup. So there's a half a cup. Pretty spot on. I'm not drinking it. Okay. Everybody with me? Next thing we want to do is add in some flavor to this. Feta and dill are absolutely two of the greatest things ever invented. This feta is actually fairly decent. I know that Marcia from the Table Hopper will speak otherwise. She did a tour of Greece and did like high-end fetas there, barrel aged and things like that. For this purpose, this very inexpensive piece of Whole Foods feta, keep it in the fridge forever, and it's damn tasty. Yes, terry cloth. So that's about the size of the piece that I'm going to want to use for that. I mean, it's an eyeball thing. So I know that some of you had your tape measures out before we started. I'm just going to square this off a bit, and then we're going to do a rough chop.
Hey, so Ed, can I ask you a quick question, please?
You can ask me anything you want, my friend.
All right. So my husband, Robert, hates feta and he hates dill. Can you suggest a good alternative?
I'm trying to think. There's a lot of good guys on the market that I can suggest as an alternative. But if you have to keep him, I would say tell him to suck it up and eat feta and dill. Jeez, Driggs. I would say, let me think. Ricotta salata and basil, parsley, or nothing. You don't have to put either of them in there. They'll still be decent, but to me, that makes the latke. I mean, that makes this thing shine. So I would go with the replace the husband option on that. I'm one of those non-cilantro people. So we're gonna.
It's easy for you to say, Adam. Replacing the husband thing, man, right?
Yeah, I've been there. So I am putting a fine chop on this. Now here's the thing. You guys can have your preference on this. I like these to be a finer grate than the box grater or the disc for a fritter. So I'm going to put it back in to the food processor with these ingredients, and I'm going to pulse it just a little bit to break it up from the shred. Okay, I don't want a latke. I want more of a fritter. So I'm going to put the feta in, and that's just a preference. You don't have to do this. If you, at this point, are liking that sort of texture and want it to feel more like a latke, that's on you.
So he's doing this.
I'm going to snip off some of this lovely dill.
Where's the blade?
I'm going to take it to Driggs's house up in Asti and plant it everywhere.
Yeah.
Where's the blade?
What's wrong with that dude? So rough chop on the dill. And that's, about a tablespoon. I might put more. I love dill. Like I put dill on raw salads.
How much dill?
Like a tablespoon or more. And then eggs, depending on the size of your eggs, if they're large, I would put 2. Mine are pretty small, so I might put 3. And then I'm not going to put the flour in just yet. I'm going to mix it first. And if you don't want to use flour, once again, this is a perfect chance where you could use matzo meal or you could use matzo cake meal.
How many eggs did you put in, Ed?
I put in 3 in mine, but I have small eggs, so 2 would be fine. You just kind of want to get it coated. And then we're going to salt and pepper this.
Hey, that's the name of your sex tape, man. Small eggs. I got small eggs, man.
This is based
We're on Facebook Live here, man.
So?
Out to hundreds of people. They're gonna know you as the deviant one, Ribs.
You mean as a Brooklyn Nine-Nine guy?
If they don't already. So salt and pepper to taste. Again, every time we do this, I talk about volume of ingredients and your purpose and your salt. I probably put in a half a teaspoon or more. It's just about, for this much, that's how much I need. I don't know. It's really, I can't talk about measuring because we're going to taste them before we do it, and we can always add some more in. So go a little bit on the lighter side. And I think I'm going to use all-purpose flour. Forgot to have some out for this. And this is just a consistency thing. So what you want is it to be a little bit clumpy in your hand so that when you put it in the pan, it'll stick together. So you don't want it to be too wet, but you also don't want lumps of flour in it. So I'm just going to take a handful of flour. That's probably 1/4 cup in my hand. And I'm going to put it in, mix it up, and see how it feels. And I'm just using a fork to mix it in.
You weren't going to add the flour to after you chopped it.
No. I wanted to just get the egg in before I added the flour. I want it to be wet. But I'm going to put the flour before I put it in there because we're essentially making a little bit of a batter. So maybe a little bit more. We lost your video, Ribs. And it should just ever so slightly yield to your fork, and you know that's when it's good. It should, you should feel a little tug on your fork when you're stirring it. Now I'm going to put it in the food processor. And I'm not going for a puree. I'm not going for a fine process on this. I just want it to be a little less latke-like. So I'm going to pulse it a few times, see how it feels. And that's good to me. A little bit more. Okay. So I'll show you guys on the overhead where I'm at. Again, your call. That's how I like it. So what I'm going to do is transfer this to the bowl. And I believe that's everything on this. And we'll move on to the potato latkes. This is an easy session, right, guys?
Adam, this is my sous chef, my nephew Sebastian.
Hi, Sebastian.
He's sheltering in with us.
Very nice. Where does he live?
He goes to Lewis and Clark, so they kicked everybody out. So
Fantastic.
to come here.
Nice to meet you. Can't believe we haven't met before. Okay, so I'm going to put this in my bowl and get this ready for frying in a bit. Now, here's the thing. I usually serve this with a tzatziki. If you're not familiar with tzatziki, it is a sauce made with Greek yogurt and a little acid, I believe lemon juice, and cucumber. And you shred the cucumber. I highly recommend, after we're done this, before you eat your zucchini latkes in bulk, or your zucchini fritters, that you make some tzatziki. And if we want, we could stay on and we can make some together. I have everything to make it. I don't know if you guys do, but you could just use sour cream, just like a regular latke if you prefer. It's your call. Let me put this in a bowl like the other. We're going to clean up our station, and then we're going to get potatoes. Highly recommend working cleanly. You cook. Makes life easier for everybody. And that was a public service message sponsored by Tom Borden.
Adam, you're supposed to let me be messy. That
Oh,
was
okay. Sorry. He paid me, though. Okay. It's interesting. I feel guilty doing this one because these things are so easy and so delicious that I'm kind of giving a window into how I've wowed people at my latke party for years. And you pull back the curtain and there's really not much to it. So giving away all my secrets in this cooking show. All right. Let me know when you guys are ready to do potato latkes. Going in for the full Monty here. The thing about potato latkes is that the flavor balance, I think, comes by adding an ingredient called schmaltz. I happen to be one of the few people on earth that probably keeps schmaltz in his refrigerator or freezer all the time. Schmaltz is, oh God, I keep forgetting to go back to speaker view. Schmaltz is rendered chicken fat. So when you make chicken soup, the fat layer that's at the top, essentially that's schmaltz. There's a different process for making it, but schmaltz is the most wonderful, musky, fatty, glistening love. It's what makes the chicken soup good. It's what makes a good latke have that extra kick of flavor. You don't have to use it. But that is, I guess, the second secret beyond my water trick that allows my latkes to have flavor is using schmaltz. It's hard to get in San Francisco. I get it from Wise Sons. I usually buy it by the pint or the half pint around the holidays. They expect a call from me. I know the owners, and I say, hey, I'd like some schmaltz. You'll still get a great latke without it. There's just like maybe that extra 10% that pushes it into the sublime by having that level of, dare I say, umami that comes from rendered chicken fat. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get a bowl.
Sorry, Adam, did you say mommy or umami?
I said umami.
Okay.
So Adam, is it the layer of fat when you make your own chicken soup that you would just say?
It's essentially that, like that's a cheat. So when we do our soup on Thursday, you'll be able to get some schmaltz out of it the next day. So that is a cheat, and that's an acceptable cheat. Though, you know, to make it in quantity in bulk, you need to do a lot more than that. But very acceptable schmaltz comes off the top of your chicken soup when it's cool. Okay, so I have a bowl of water that I'm going to use to arrest the browning in between the peeling and the shredding. I'm going to set up my shredder. So that we can move pretty quickly on this. We've already got our onions. So you know the first part. All we're going to do, we're going to peel, shred, mix with the onions, and then you guys will all catch up together. My recipe that I put in there called for 2 large russet potatoes. These are not large russet potatoes. This is about half the size of a large russet. This is, I would say, a very small one. So I'm going to do 3, maybe 4. I think 4 of these. Come again?
Are we doing 2 pounds of potatoes?
No, potatoes. About 2 pounds. So think of it this way. 1 large russet is probably about 1 pound. So I can weigh mine.
I weighed mine and whatever. It's all good.
And how much does it weigh?
I did 2 pounds of potatoes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine is each one of these. 2 of these is about 1 pound. So I'm going to do 2 pounds. So we'll be on the same page. Like I said, it's about the same. A good large russet is 1 pound. So for reference. So let's peel them and get them in water and then shred them. And then we can start making our latkes. And the great thing is that now that we've prepped 3 different batters, once we get our fry pans up, it's going to be a cavalcade of latke frying. You might want to open the windows and the doors in your house to air it out because grease is real. One of the things, I think maybe one of the reasons why Julie we got divorced was because every year at Hanukkah, I would fill up the house with grease. No comments.
That's true. She told me that.
She told you that?
Yeah, that's for sure true.
She did. I mean, it was a very, I don't think that was one of the reasons why, but it was definitely something that wasn't desirable about our lovely DeHaro Street house. It always smelled of Jew grease. Okay. So my 4 potatoes are ready. And the good news is our onion is all set. See how we planned that all out so that we could be most efficient with our time? Half the battle in cooking, being organized. Compost. Okay. The shredder is ready. I'm gonna have a sip of wine. You guys are all working so diligently right now. My minions. So after you run them through the food processor, I quarter them almost like steak fries to get them into the hole. Because it's pretty narrow here. So we can move pretty fast once we do this. And I dropped one, wash it off.
Is it okay to shred the potato if there's no onion in there?
Well, you want to just get it from the shredder to the bowl as quickly as you can.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a pretty quick little session here. Get about half of them done. Transfer them in. And then do the other half. Always good to have your plastic spatula handy. I think we might even get more liquid out of only potatoes, which is interesting because conceivably they're denser. So I'm mixing the onion around, as you know, keeps it from browning. And let's get the other potatoes done. There were years and years and years where I only used the hand box grater. I was kind of adamant about that. And then I tried this and I realized that I really do appreciate the convenience as well as the actual texture. And that's what's important to me, that the quality of the product was superior. Yes.
But Adam, I've heard that the secret ingredient is actually a little bit of your knuckle skin.
Yeah, well, that's what I that's what I used to say. And while that's true, I am almost 51 years old right now, and I take every convenience that I can get in life. Okay, so we're going to be done with the food processor now. So get that soaking in the sink, and we're going to mix these guys up, getting our onions well incorporated, and then we're going to do the towel trick again. For those of you who are just tuning in, towel trick is the secret to making great latkes. As I said earlier with the zucchini latkes, the great challenge in making latkes is getting out the moisture. When you get out the moisture, you get a crispier, more potato-y latke. I think I'm going to use the same towel as the zucchini. I just want to get all the zucchini off of it. And then I just throw these in the washing machine and they get pretty quickly back to normal. They're not too damaged by this. Though I have done some sessions. Oftentimes I'll be doing for the latke party a 10-pound bag of potatoes, and I will wind up ripping cloths because I use them so much. All right, I'm going to half this.
Do we have to put the salt on the potatoes first?
No, that was just for the zucchini because it helps leach out some of the liquid from the zucchini. And quite honestly, that was just to illustrate that for the zucchini, you could just put it on zucchini alone and let it sit. It's kind of like an eggplant that way.
So the potato and the onion get mixed together right now and then
Yes.
drained out?
Yeah. So I've got potato and onion here, and I'm about to roll it up and squeeze out the moisture. And I will get my moisture bowl again, and why not we measure and see what comes. So again, you're turning in opposite directions. So you fill the towel up. I usually do this in the bottom of a sink because I also use the sink as leverage. But yeah, we'll probably get a half a cup out of each one of these. Quite a bit of potato mank. Now, I've heard of another secret that some of you may be interested in trying. And this is taking and letting this sit for a while. And what happens is the potato starch floats or sinks to the bottom. And then there's like a thick paste that results after you squeeze out the liquid. And then you can mix the paste back in because the starch is actually pretty good. So I've heard of people doing that. Not my technique. I don't think I need it, but what the hell? If you're into it, I'm not going to stop you. Okay. So putting the dried potatoes. Amy, are you not doing this? What happened?
I have a helper. I'm
Who's
just like
doing it, Poppy?
relaxing.
Who's doing it, Poppy?
Sebastian is ringing it out.
Oh, Sebastian's doing it all. Wow. Good job, bud. Amy, why don't you tell us a story? Tell everybody about your business and your fashion stuff. Talk about
About
how you can
South
help
Shore.
people improve their fashion.
I will totally. Oh, look, it's like a little commercial in the middle. I love it.
And now a word from our sponsor.
And now we're for our sponsor. I am a facilitator for Stacia Style School, and where we sort of help women match their insides to their outsides. And I'm in the middle of 5-week style school right now, in the middle of a global pandemic, and it's great. People are having so much fun experimenting in their closet. You know, sometimes when you're like, I have nothing, I have absolutely nothing in my closet. They are digging around, and 2 days later, they're like, oh my God, I have so much to wear. I'm having so much fun. I'm reconnecting.
So what is it that you guys do? When you say you're matching their insides to their outsides, what does that mean?
I mean, the basic idea is, who are you and how do you want to show up in the world? That's the basic question.
So do you give them like therapy? Do you like you sit them down on a couch and ask them about their divorce problems and things, or
not so much? We ask them to try to connect with the place inside them that has never been wounded.
So Jenna is asking about a bike or a bike shop. Do we want to offer the mountain bikes or no?
That's our other sponsor.
Who?
What was
Jenna.
that?
Extended to the 18th.
She wants to extend to the 18. Should we offer the mountain bike?
Have we gotten hacked?
Thing that they're talking
But I don't know. We just call it the bike barn.
Oh, in the Zoom drinking game.
Where's it? Oh, right here, right? Like bike barn is right on Tom's, right?
Oh,
Who is that?
right.
I think that was Jason's. Was somebody talking about mountain bikes on your okay. That was interesting. Anyway, Amy, you got a website for us?
I do. You can go to stasiasstyleschool.com. It's STASIA styleschool.com and learn all about it. She's amazing. And I work closely with her and one other woman, and we basically run the whole show of 160 women going through this program in 5 weeks. And it's super fun.
Very cool. Look at that.
Thanks,
Now
Adam.
I was able to pay for my show. So you will notice how white the potatoes are, and the onions, and you know why, because I've said it 100 times, but that is a miracle of science. Now, what we're going to do, once we get these out of the towel, who's with me? Who needs more time? Okay. I got a couple thumbs up. I got a couple needs more time. Let me go back to the regular screen view. The object here is that we're going to be putting enough egg and enough matzo meal and enough sour cream to create the right texture. And this is a feel thing. I wish that I could pop through the internets here and help you touch this. I want to touch your potatoes. What I'm going to do is I am going to take 1 large egg, 2 small eggs. I'm going to scramble it up. It doesn't take a lot of egg because the moisture also comes from the sour cream. Now that's a little non-traditional. My use of sour cream, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody putting it actually in the latke. And what it does for me is it gives it a little creaminess inside, the crispy outside. It helps to facilitate that little poof of steam and moisture in the middle. So we're going to put about a 1/4 cup of the sour cream.
Wait, Adam, how many?
Is Come again?
How many eggs?
1 large egg or 2 smaller eggs. Again, my eggs are pretty small, so I'm using 2.
What's the weight of the egg?
Lots of smaller.
Come again?
What did you say the average weight of like a large egg would be?
I can measure it.
No, you don't need to. I just remember last week you said it's X amount of grams, but
How many
I
grams?
forgot because I actually measured it last week.
oh.
So with the shell on, 55 grams for my little eggs. Okay, so we're gonna put about a 1/4 cup of sour cream, maybe a little bit more. My eggs. And then I like to put a little bit of schmaltz. If you don't put the schmaltz in there, so you do have to remember that is a bit of a liquid and flavor component, maybe a little bit more sour cream, a little bit more egg. So to make up for the fact that you probably don't have schmaltz, I'm just drizzling a little bit in because I don't have a lot left. I put maybe a tablespoon in there. I usually put a little bit more, but I don't have a lot. And then what I'm going to do is start mixing this. I want to get it all coated with the wet. And then the trick is going to be when we put the dry in, which is our matzo meal. Does everybody have matzo meal?
Afraid not.
No matzo meal for you. Anybody else not have it?
I don't have it.
I have rye flour.
I would use white flour.
Okay.
Or take some crackers and put them in the food processor.
I did that.
You did that?
Yep.
Yeah, then use that.
Very cool.
Just as long as they're a nice fine grain. That would be my preference. Jody, do you have crackers that you can put in the food processor?
I'd rather use flour, I think.
Okay. So sprinkle the flour over there. What we're looking for with our matzo meal is like a wet, grainy, sandy texture. So what do I put in the recipe? I put 2 heaping tablespoons. So that's 1-ish. There's 2-ish. Maybe it's a little bit more. What you want to do is get your hands in there, mix it around. Oh, and before you do that, salt. So approximately, it's quite a bit of salt. I would say that that's a little bit of half a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon of salt. And then black pepper.
Adam, have you added the eggs already?
Yeah, I put 2 eggs in.
Okay, cool.
Under a lilac tree. I've been singing Jeff Buckley lately. Very, very big fan. If you haven't listened to the album Grace ever or in a while, it's a really good shelter in place tome. Okay, so I'm gonna get it mixed in with a fork and then I'm gonna feel it with my hand. I want it evenly incorporated. I want the matzo meal spread around and it should loosely stick together. It's not going to feel like it's binding. You won't get like a big bind here. It'll happen in the pan. But when I feel this, if I clump it, it'll stick together. If I squeeze it and clump it, it stays together, but easily falls apart. This is what I'm looking for. I don't want it to be wet, like dripping wet, but I don't want it to be like mealy dry. I see a big piece of onion. I'm going to toss that out. I would say mine's perfect right now. Let me show you in the overhead. So when I squeeze it, it comes together loosely, but you know, it's just well coated is the way that I would describe it. Has a little tension from the matzo meal. That's perfect. I'm going to switch to the overhead cam. wonder if I do this, if I pin the other video, does it show up on Facebook? Let's try it. Pin video. Now let's see if that becomes the default on Facebook. Give it a second. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Nope. Oh, wait. No, it doesn't work. Darn it, Facebook. I want to just default to that overhead camera, but it's not allowing me. So I think I'm going to leave it in the gallery view.
Did you put the schmaltz in?
I put a little bit of schmaltz in, yeah.
Okay.
You have some?
No, but I have some some like rendered pork fat. Is that so wrong?
I wouldn't use pork fat, but you can use duck fat.
Oh, okay. So keep it in the poultry family.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't, then I would add a little extra egg or sour cream. Not too much sour cream, just a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna get a fry pan going. I think I'm just gonna use one fry pan because I don't think all of you have two 14-inch cast iron pads like I do. So I'm going to start putting it on sort of a medium high heat. And I've got my 3 batters. Okay. You'll see your zucchini probably has separated a little bit because there was even more moisture. Go figure. So you just want to mix that in at this point. It's probably some of the egg as well. So we're going to start with the cheese latkes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mix of canola oil and butter. That's 1, 2, 3 tablespoons for my big honking pan of canola oil. So, you know, a fairly light sheen, and then that's like maybe a big tablespoon of butter. Get your pan coated, get it up to, the thing about cast iron is it takes a little longer to get up to temperature and then it gets really hot and stays at that temperature. So it's a little harder to work with, but it becomes pretty consistent. Are you guys using, you can use nonstick fry pans. There's Tommy.
Hi, Adam.
Hello, Thomas. How are you?
You.
Rosalie is waving hi to you there, BH. Quick gallery view.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Rosie.
Oh, you're not.
Hi, Rosie. Love you.
Hey, BH, I didn't see Starkapelago as you promised.
Guy that was digitizing it, because believe it or not, I didn't have a DVD copy. I only had a DVD tape. But he just
hey, we're waiting.
And said it's ready. I'm going to pick it up tomorrow.
All right, nice. Okay, so my pan is getting there. Now, we're going to cook these like pancakes. I might use a scoop, make it a little easier. And medium high heat, you don't want to burn them. They easily burn. And they will get pretty brown no matter what. So I'm just going to take and make a half dozen of these. Same way we did the meatballs in a round. And then we'll move on to the zucchini. I'll just fry off about 6 of each of them, and you guys can do the finished frying on your own.
So we're literally just doing fried cheese.
Pretty much.
Sweet.
Fried cheese pancakes. Let's be real about what it is. May take 1 or 2 batches to get the pan going. I always find, especially with latkes, and these guys, to activate the baking powder, it often takes one or two. I'm gonna get a serving dish for all of my latkes. How are we doing on time? This one's a long one. You can see him starting to poof a little bit. Usually at the latke party, I cook everything fresh. I don't like, actually, I don't mind when I'm eating them myself, but at a latke party, I like fresh latkes. And that means I spend the entire party right here, and I ask people to come and see me. And we have 2 pans going, the 2 big pans with as many latkes as I can possibly fit going at one time. And it's work. So this kind of reminds me of that. So it's hard to tell on these because they don't change the top very much. It's not like a pancake where you start to see the bubble. There are those who didn't make the cheese latkes. You could skip to frying the other ones. The difference is that I use olive oil for the zucchini fritters, and then I use a mix of canola oil and schmaltz for the potato latkes. The potato latkes fry at a higher heat. So that's why I'm starting with these to get the temperature up in the pan, fry off a couple of the cheese latkes, and then move on to the much higher heat potato latkes. So you can see it gets a nice little brown coat, even when it's barely cooked. You don't want to go too much further than that. You want to check them. And then when you flip them, they'll puff up even more. You'll see the activation of the baking powder. But they shouldn't stick.
Adam, did you say baking powder?
Yeah. Did you use baking soda?
No, I didn't put either in. How much am I supposed to put in?
The cheese latkes has a ½ teaspoon. So I would just mix it in right now.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, you definitely want that because they have some rise to them. And remember, for those of you tuning in on Facebook that haven't seen this, one, I'm doing split screen right now so you can watch the pan. This is, there's another camera here that is mine. But, and why don't I move this over? But the cheese latke as a, let me make sure it sticks. The cheese latke as a tradition was actually the practice before potato latkes. So that's why we make them. I love them. It's like eating a cannoli, a warm cannoli. I'm gonna bust out my sheet pan with a wire rack on it because that's how we're gonna keep grease off of our serving platters. Smelling good in here. This one's done. This one's almost done. Ready to flip. So they require a little bit of attention. Get that light golden crust on them. But these are beautiful. I'm very happy with these. They're going to have a little bit of the butter flavor. And once you make a few, then let's move on together to the zucchini.
Adam, were we supposed to put pepper in the potato latke?
Yes, salt and pepper.
And pepper, okay.
Okay, so my cheese latkes are done. Now, my pan is still hot. I'll take a little olive oil. Doesn't have to be high quality, but somewhat decent olive oil. And just hit it with, you know, a tablespoon or two. Mix it in with the existing oils in there. It's not going to kill anything. I'm going to have to eat one of these latkes though. Oh my God. They're so good. Very hot. Be careful. But that's the real deal. Okay. Zucchini fritters. Form a ball. In the pan. Relatively high heat, medium high heat. We'll start to sizzle. Excuse me. That tickled my insides. It's so hot. So I'm going to ball these up and then I'm going to squish them down when I turn them because I like them to have a little loft to them. Now, if you taste them in this first round and they need salt or pepper, this would be the time like we did with the meatballs where I would add some before I make the entire batch. You have a lot of flexibility here to up your game if you're struggling with seasoning. I need a little more olive oil because my pan seems to bow to the sides. I'm just gonna get them fairly crispy on one side. You guys like that overhead camera? That's basically just my iPhone with a magnet on the underside of my stove. It's a MacGyver move. So these guys want a little bit of browning and crunch to them. The cheese latkes, not as much. Has anybody tasted their cheese latkes yet? And? Really good.
So
I thought
good.
you'd like those. They're a big hit. Okay, so these zucchini guys are you're looking to get a nice brown bottom, like if you saw the picture that I posted. There we go. Okay, you see that one? That's the golden brown that you're looking for on the zucchini.
A question, please.
And I will have an answer.
So you, in your recipe, you mentioned cream cheese.
What's that?
Cream cheese.
Yeah, we put the cream cheese in. It was 3 ounces.
Oh no, we didn't put
Oh, when did you put that in?
That was this. Remember I said that I didn't have good math? My gazintas weren't that good and I had 8 ounces, and how do I get to 3?
Oh, I missed that.
Well, put it
Which
in.
one was that?
It's not too late. You can just add it in and puree it up real quick.
In the cheese latkes?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they taste really good even without the cream cheese.
They're like
It's probably true. You really can't go that wrong with them. But yeah, that was, did everybody else get the cream cheese? You remember that part?
I got the cream cheese. I just missed the baking powder, but now I have it.
Okay, so these guys are frying up. I don't think these cheese latkes are going to last very long on my counter here. My God. Rosie, did you try one? So I have different hot spots in my pan.
We didn't make the cheese one.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So I have different hot spots in my pan here. So that's why I'm turning them at different times. And I'm just checking them because I have a smaller burner under this one. But these are almost done. And then we'll move on to the potatoes. Oftentimes at the latke party, I will make enough to feed the army and then still have tons and tons of leftover batter of each kind. So I'll fry until midnight, and then I take the leftover latkes, put them out on the pans, and then when they cool, stack them and put them in the freezer throughout the next 2 months. And I'll have hundreds of them. And throughout the next 2 months, I will pull them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at a time, pop them in the toaster oven. You really couldn't ask for a better snack. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling some of the zucchini fritters and lining them up here. And again, you want the same on both sides, the same crispiness, pretty even browning. And as I said, the tzatziki is, oops, I got that. The tzatziki is definitely the topping of choice. If you don't have it, the ingredients for it, then just using some sour cream will certainly work. Okay, we're almost done with these. Now, when you do the potato latkes, you want to use your hands. And the trick is stir it up before you start. If it's sat for anything more than a few minutes, always stir it up. And you're going to put a bit more oil than the other ones. Just make sure these are done. You just want to get them evenly brown on all sides. So we're going to take canola oil and then schmaltz. Usually I'll take a nice layer of canola oil and then a tablespoon or so of schmaltz for each batch. So pull these and let's get on to potato. So I've got the industrial size canola oil, and that's not not for the faint of heart. That's probably 1/8 of an inch on the bottom, and then a little shot of schmaltz in there. You're going to want to hear frying when you take your potato latkes in there. So it's going to make a sound. That's a good sound of the schmaltz getting incorporated. You're going to take a handful, fingers full, maybe this much for each one. About the size of a golf ball, but not the density of a golf ball. You're going to drop it in. Make sure that it stays together. That's a little big for me, actually, maybe a little bit less. And just go around the pan and line these suckers up. You make it short, you can always just add a little on top. Be careful, it's hot oil. I mean, it's part of the dangers of the job, the knuckle grating and the skin burning, and the apartment smelling like hot oil and rendered chicken fat. I'm gonna fill this pan up. And I'm gonna look for the edges. So you know that these are done, you don't wanna overcrowd the pan. You wanna make sure that they stay independent. But as you can see, let's go to the overhead in the gallery view. You can see that I've got a series of beauties frying there. And then it's just a matter of time. I'm gonna eat one of these while I'm waiting. Mmm. Mmm. Has anybody tried the zucchini fritters? Where's my sour cream? So, that's good. My preference on all this stuff is slightly undersalt them and then hit them with a tiny drop of Maldon salt as your finishing salt. It just brings out so much more when you hit it with a little finishing salt. God, that's good. I'm such a Jew. I love my latkes. Okay, so these guys, you're gonna move them around, make sure that they're sticking nicely together. If you do not have, one of the troubleshooting issues that you might have is that they don't stay together. Just like the meatballs. If for some reason they don't stay together, that means that you don't have the right blend of binding agents. So that's your balance of egg and sour cream as your wet and your matzo meal as your dry. So if it's not working for you, you have to play with that. The thing that I was trying to get to was that sort of gloppiness, but not oversaturated sandiness to the hand. That's the trick, that's the feel. This is not rocket science, but as you get more comfortable with it and you do it, you will know that feeling that makes it stick together. And if it's not working for you, try a different balance. Ask me, say I did this or I did that and it's not working.
Adam, can you, are the zucchini fritters the same size, kind of that golf ball?
Yeah, I used a little scooper. I used an 1.5 ounce scooper. So
got it. Writing that down on my supply list right now.
yeah. Even as we've been cooking, my starter has grown even more. And I fed it this morning at like 7 a.m. Beautiful. Okay, so these latkes are getting ready to flip. So here's how you tell. Guys, look on here. See the edges of this one right here? That one's ready because it's turning dark on the edges. Boom, look at that. Perfect latke. So you're looking for the edges to just start to get that crispy brown. And boom, I've got the perfect latke right there. That's how you know is just on the outside of the edges, you can see, I mean, you can cheat, you can lift it up and you can look underneath, but it's not gonna fail if you have decent heat going, that when the edges start to turn crispy brown like that, the color that you're looking for, then you know to flip them. Okay, let's get a nice little white serving platter. Be good contrast to the lovely brown of the latkes. I'm going to spin this guy around so we can put our potato. And as you watch them, so I'm working on the latke party night, I'm working hundreds of latkes at a time. So you know to just be watching your pan, and you can see that in different places, the heat might be different. And it might be time to turn them. Now, I'm gonna prepare some applesauce and some sour cream. I'm hosting a group. Oh, I saw Irina just joined. So Irina, you wanna pop up here? Grab some latkes. I know you like it, bring the caviar. I'll get a couple little serving vessels for my applesauce and sour cream and put them on the tray because then we'll take some good photos. I'm gonna show off on Facebook or else nobody will show up. for the next one. Who's coming to matzo ball soup? Look at that. Which one is that, Jason? Is that zucchini or potato?
This one's the potato.
Fantastic.
It's so freaking delicious. It's unbelievable. And by the way, the cheese was amazing.
Nice. I'm so glad. Good to hear that my students are killing it. Okay, so I'm getting in here. Most of these are going to be ready to turn now. You can tell which side of the thing is hotter by when they're done. And you know, adjust accordingly. Okay, so this one is my first fully done one. The first one I turned, put it on the wire rack, let it cool, move these guys around. And if I were continuing to go, I'd slide these guys over so that they can get cooked and then add more to the other side. And then just have a constant rotation going so that I'm sliding some from here to there and cooking them across. It's enough of the overhead. All right, we're getting close to wrapping up here, people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out a couple of the cheese, a few of the zucchini.
So good.
Yeah, which one and who was that?
Oh, potato and zucchini. Mark.
And that comes from a Jew. Okay.
It's the schmaltz. It's on the schmaltz, man. It's on the schmaltz.
You have schmaltz?
We have schmaltz, of course.
Really?
My wife's a schmaltz saver.
I am really impressed.
She saves it. We just made chicken soup recently, so she happens to save it. And we cooked it.
More reasons to love your wife.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if there weren't enough already. All right, I'm pulling the potatoes off. These guys over here, and then, so for those that are coming for the matzo ball soup, this is Jew Week here on Zolot TV. For those that are coming for the matzo ball soup, I'm doing it in 2 days because you can't do it in 1 day. We'd have to come back hours later because the soup needs time to cook. So, excuse me. I won't take long on the second day. The first day is going to be about really just prepping and chopping vegetables, talking about the balance and ratio and proportions to get your proper stock or your broth, sorry. And then mixing the matzo balls. The next day we'll come back and I'm going to give you instructions that day though of how to strain your soup because you have to do that on your own. All right, pulling these guys off. So let me give a little close up to the viewing audience here. This is the way that I like my latkes. It's small, it's crispy and brown. It's like a neat little hash brown. A little bit of sour cream, a little bit of applesauce, a little shot of sea salt, Maldon Sea Salt. And I can do that in 1 bite. That's the point. They're made 1 bite for me, 2 bite for the rest of the world. I'll be polite, but you get that first bite and you get inside it, and that's where you start to feel the love that you put inside it. You get the crispy on the outside. My God, you devilish man. Sometimes I know what I'm doing, people. I'm going to plate these up and then we're going to sign off.
I got one lined up just like you said, Adam.
What's that, Ribs?
I got one lined up just like you said.
We had them at that party.
Yeah.
At the Christmas party this year. That's beautiful. I remember you tore into them.
Oh, my favorite. Fried potato.
Okay. So here's a little party on a plate.
Oh.
There you've got
Oh, beautiful.
cheese latkes, zucchini fritters, potato latkes, sour cream applesauce, maybe a little tzatziki.
Beautiful.
It is such a great pleasure to cook with all of you.
Where's the horseradish vodka? That's what I want to know.
In the freezer. And that is something that we should teach for another time.
Definitely.
It's amazing.
Oh, I think we're on mute, off mute.
Look, I love you guys. This is so much fun. This is such a great way to spend our time. Finish cooking off all your latkes and send pictures, post them on Facebook. I will see everybody on Thursday for matzo ball soup. Happy Passover. Enjoy and keep sane, staying at home, and all the love in the world.
You're the man.
Love you, Adam. Mwah.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
It's a great one.
Love you.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Yummy.
Oh.